the sun blazed down on the land of Egypt, where the Hebrews worked under the watchful eyes of Pharaoh's soldiers. The Hebrews were slaves, forced to labor day and night, building the grand structures that stood as symbols of Egypt's power. Yet even as they labored, their numbers grew, and Pharaoh, fearing their strength, decreed a terrible command. All newborn Hebrew boys were to be thrown into the Nile River, a cruel attempt to crush their spirit and diminish their numbers. In the midst of this oppression, a Levite woman named Jochebed gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. As she held him in her arms, she felt a mix of overwhelming love and deep fear. She knew the danger that awaited him if he were discovered. With a mother's fierce determination, Jochebed hid her baby, keeping him safe from Pharaoh's soldiers for 3 long months. But the days passed, and it became harder to keep her precious child hidden. The sound of his cries, once a source of joy, now filled her with dread. Knowing she could no longer protect him on her own, Jochebed crafted a plan. She took reeds from the riverbank, weaving them into a basket. With careful hands, she coated the basket with tar and pitch, making it watertight. Then, with a heart heavy with hope and fear, she placed her baby inside, covering him with a blanket. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden hue over the Nile, Jochebed carried the basket to the river's edge. With a whispered prayer, she set the basket adrift, entrusting her child's fate to the hands of God. Jochebed's daughter, Miriam, watched from a distance, her young heart filled with faith. She followed the basket as it floated down the river, hidden among the tall reeds. The current carried it gently, as if guided by an unseen force, until it came to rest near the lush gardens of Pharaoh's palace. It was here that Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe. As she walked along the riverbank, her eyes caught sight of the basket caught among the reeds. Curious, she ordered her attendants to bring it to her. When she opened the basket and saw the crying baby, her heart was moved with compassion. Though she knew he was a Hebrew child, she couldn't bear to see him harmed. Against all expectations, she decided to take him in and raise him as her own son. Pharaoh's daughter named the baby Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." She brought him to the palace, where he grew up surrounded by the grandeur of Egyptian royalty. Moses was raised as a prince, with every luxury at his fingertips, yet he never forgot his Hebrew heritage. Even as he wore the garments of an Egyptian prince, he felt a deep connection to the people he had come from. As the years passed, Moses grew into a strong and wise young man. He walked the grand halls of the palace, but his heart often led him to the secluded gardens, where he could be alone with his thoughts. He struggled with the knowledge that while he lived in comfort, his people suffered under the harsh rule of Pharaoh. This inner conflict grew within him, shaping his character and guiding him toward his destiny. Moses could not ignore the call he felt deep within his soul, the call to stand with his people. It was this call that would eventually lead him away from the palace and into the heart of the struggle for his people's freedom.